Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Richard Lewis Show. This one's going to be a biggie. It's one that's been in the making a while. My guest is a very special guest. Big fan of the show, apparently, which is great
Huge.
to know. Well, yes. and one of the biggest contributors to esports as a whole. It is Hector Rodriguez, the person who founded OpTic, one of the largest gaming organizations in the world right now. And I'm not going to, obviously, fawn over you too much, but we've met.
Keep going. I'd like to hear it.
we've had beers, so I think you're a pretty swell guy. And I'm going to start telling you some of the reasons why. So let's just jump right into it. So first, right off the bat, obviously OpTic, they did win an award, an esports award this year for best gaming organization, multi-gaming organization. Now, I think that's correct, right? Yeah, didn't Shaq give you it or something?
No, that was the esports team of the year. Fan voted.
There you go. I was close.
Fan voted. Yeah, it was
fan voted. And I got to be honest. I kind of felt on merit that maybe Fnatic should have had it, but that's just me. Yeah. But let's talk about that. So obviously you have got this incredible fan base. Huge amount of fans. You win all sorts of kind of fan awards and this kind of thing. How big is the OpTic fan base overall? Would you say?
Massive, I would say. We have a lot of friends. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you count? You ever done a head count?
No, you know what? We were thinking, it was like, all right, how many bricks in the brick wall, right? In the green wall. So we lost count, but they all have a special place in everyone's heart here at OpTic for sure.
Mm. So I mean, and you're one of the people that I've always wanted to kind of pick the brains of, right? Because I've been saying for years that the future of games organizations are basically to cut out these kind of old, crusty, multi-gaming managers that exist, from what I can tell, almost solely to kind of make money off the back of players' efforts. Yeah. And players should go and start their own organizations, and that players can definitely do this. And I've heard the argument made by a lot of these kind of owners where it's like, oh no, players could never do it. They wouldn't have the connections. They don't have the resources. But you did it. You were a player. You were somebody that founded an organization, and you built it up to being one of the biggest in the world. So tell me about that journey. Like, tell me how that happens.
It was by pure accident that I landed in the place that I did. Right, I set out to be a YouTuber, a gaming YouTuber that makes videos on the internet. Right, and that was that. By the time that we reached 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, we said, you know what, let's go back to our roots. Let's go back to competitive Call of Duty and help that grow, because at the time competitive Call of Duty wasn't even like that big of a thing. I mean, it was in Europe, right, with Pro Mod and the PC thing, with Call of Duty 2 specifically, and then moving on to Call of Duty 4, and that's when it really took off. But for me, it was a matter of like seizing like a moment in a sense, right? Because at that time, YouTube, you couldn't monetize YouTube, right? So at the time, we were making YouTube videos for 2 years before we can monetize a YouTube video, right? Since 2008, 2007, we're making videos. And it wasn't until 2009 when we were able to say, you know what, hey, this many views equals X amount of money. And at the time, I would go to work, I would get home, make videos, and did it for the love of it, right? Did it because, it reached, an audience in a sense. So that journey, you fast forward and YouTube is a norm, something that people just take for granted, right? Because at one point, believe it or not, you couldn't make money off of YouTube. You had to go through an MCN, a multi-channel network like Machinima, like Gamer Studios, right? It wasn't where you can partner your own channel and then make that happen. I often, take credit for that as well, amongst other things.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. But I mean, when do you start first taking the tentative steps kind of into management, right? Because obviously it's one thing to handle the financial particulars. I mean, you're a very, talkative guy. You're a lot of fun to be around. We know that in this business, in esports, a lot of these deals do get done over beers, and it's kind of still that old school kind of business approach. But when you start kind of managing other players, all of a sudden you have a new dimension to think about. It's not just about making money. You've got a duty of care, you know, to players. You have to provide them an environment to thrive, to succeed. You've got to start dealing with many different personality archetypes. And I've always said players would have a true advantage if they were to move into that field, because everything they experienced when they were players, all the frustrations, all the difficulties, all the little attention to detail, you know, they're going to have a much better understanding of that moving forward. So was that the case with you? Or, you know, did you have any bumps in the road when you started out as kind of being this, you know, team owner, team manager?
Yeah, I don't think I called myself the CEO or owner of the team until esports started becoming a professional thing. You know, the whole time I was a teammate, you know, their teammate that was just in charge of this one thing. At the time, it was like the leader of OpTic or the captain. You know, that sort of title that you got, or that, you know, self-proclaimed. But it was, you know, I have 3 siblings. I'm the oldest, and I've always had, you know, my brother is 10 years younger than me, and he's the one that actually pushed OpTic into, you know, content creation back when. So I've always known how to be a big brother, and always know that my job is like to protect, you know, people, or to look out for, not even protect, just to look out and maybe give them some advice as to, like, I wouldn't do that. You know, like, obviously they're getting more out of this than you are. You know, if it's going to be a partnership, 50-50, right? Or you know, whatever terms. So it kind of fell in my lap, and I literally grabbed the ball and ran with it. You know, I took it and just learned as I went along. I came across a lot of very smart people in the industry, and very early on, and I'm old, I'm 36 years old, right? So when I started doing this, I was 26. My brother was 16, which means that everybody else was playing Call of Duty at the time was 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. So they were still in high school, and my issue the whole time, the entire way, even now, I knew that some kids were going to be giving up college to compete. So I couldn't, in my right mind, say, all right, let's hope we win, or let's get a sponsorship so you can get this like salary or whatever. I said, you know what? There's a viable means to make a living off of creating content and giving your opinion, or, you know, teaching kids how to do something, teaching your peers how to do something on YouTube, and you get paid for it. So early on, I said, all right, we're going to be creating YouTube content. That's your job. You know, competing and winning tournaments, that's something that you do as because that's your passion. But for work, you have to make money, and you have to create content, and this is what you're gonna have to do to secure a paycheck, to where you're not gonna rely on any given Sunday to play your best. So,
was there ever any problems, you know, with the power dynamic? Because, you know, I've had that before, where I've been in teams. You know, and obviously not to the, you know, same degree, you know, not big teams, but like, it's been my team. You know, I've been the guy that's brought in the finances. I've been the guy that's playing, and, you know, I like the guys. They're my friends, but ultimately there'll come a point where I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm kind of running this shit. So if this boat isn't tied right now, like, it's my call. And sometimes that can create, you know, a strange power dynamic when you're trying to be friends. Sometimes it can be better, obviously, to create that very distinct, you know, kind of a delineation. You know, I actually, perhaps I shouldn't be your friend. You know, for what's good for businesses, I need to be the boss. So have you ever had, you know, issues with that, kind of as you became the CEO type character? I like that. It was great because it looked like you were taking a really long time to answer the question. So
So there was a time. You know, of course, there's always going to be that power dynamic. But again, I was way older than a lot of the people that I was working with. So it was very easy for me to like be like, this is how it's got to happen, right? And as long as they're taken care of, and as long as there's you know, a level of transparency where they understand what's happening, then you're good. Again, you know, I was a player, and I worked in corporate America from the time that I was 18 as a teller at a bank, and then as a personal bank officer, and then in the mortgage industry, and then finally for the last of my ever real job as an account analyst at AIG. I know what it's like to work in corporate America. I know what it's like to literally be an employee of and then just not see anything of it. But obviously with what we built, we were able to have a launching platform for up and coming esports, Call of Duty esports professionals that would be able to become personalities on YouTube and be able to make a living off of their own merit, their own work, and it pay whatever you put in, you get back, right? Is pretty much how I always saw it. So.
How do you explain the popularity of some of these Call of Duty brands and Call of Duty personalities? It's always struck me as odd. Like, I followed PC Call of Duty, especially Call of Duty 4, which I thought was an amazing scene. I've definitely done some coverage around the game, Call of Duty 2 as well. But when I started learning about the console side of things, people were saying, "Oh, these guys are huge," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, how do we define that?" Because, I'm not really feeling that vibe. And then people were showing me these Twitter accounts, with like 1 million followers, and I'd be like, "Who the fuck are these followers? Like, who are they?" Because it kind of felt so isolated from what I was doing in the PC side of things.
Yeah.
So how do you explain that kind of like meteoric rise? Is it, a lot of people say it's like a young audience, it's kids, they get on YouTube, they get on social media. Obviously, everyone's played Call of Duty, and that's like their first, personality that they'll follow will typically be someone from Call of Duty. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, and I think it's because of the Call of Duty community, as I said, that we're very early adapters of like the self-obsessment with how good you did in a game. And just like anything else, like you want to relive those moments, and what better way to do that than to record what you're doing? Because when Call of Duty really took off on YouTube was their Modern Warfare 2, right? When you could throw a knife across the map and then it bounced 3 times before killing someone. Christ. Those weird moments are the ones that people like lived for, right? And the second that you saw that video, you wanted to comment on the video. But the only way to comment was on Twitter, right? Or I'm sorry, on YouTube. So you had to create an account, and then you had to subscribe because you're there already, and then make the comment to see if the person presenting the video would ever say hi to you or reply to you. So very early adaptation of social media was like our big like win, I think. Obviously, and the second that you have a platform on YouTube, you can literally say, "Hey, I also have a Twitter," and then bam, your Twitter just, they're like, "Oh, he's got a Twitter. What's Twitter?" Search Twitter. It's like, "Oh my God, he's talking here. Let me sign up." And I'm talking about like 2009, right? That's when I joined Twitter, and that's the first thing that I told everyone was like, create a Twitter account, Facebook, like treat everything as its individual thing. You cannot create the same content for YouTube or for Twitter that you do for YouTube or for Facebook that you do. Everything has to be in a format that applies to that specific social media platform, So we're very early on adapters of that. That's what gave us the leg up.
I mean, it was really strange to me because I've actually, written some news and done a little bit of investigating kind of into, the console Call of Duty. And it's like the fucking Wild West, dude, in a lot of ways, because, you're obsessed with social media, and you guys probably did it way better than any of us. I still bump into like Counter-Strike players who like, "Oh, should I have a Twitter?" I'm like, "Are you fucking real?" Like, should I promote shit? Should I have a YouTube channel? It's like, guys, get all of that stuff. Get a fucking Snapchat. Get everything you can, right? And I'm saying that I don't have a Snapchat, but then again,
I have one. I don't use it.
Yeah. Who wants to see my crusty old ass anyway, right? So
you'd be surprised, man. See, don't say that, because I watch every single one of your videos, right? Like, when I was about to step into Counter-Strike, like you're probably like the first guy that I reached out, and I reached out more like a selfless, like, oh shit, I gotta say hi to this dude that I watch like on a regular basis. But you'd be surprised how many people are just curious to see. The only reason I have Snapchat is to keep tabs on my kids. And when I say my kids, I mean, my guys, right? Because they have a very, very large following, and I have to make sure that they protect it because it, again, they're foregoing college to choose this career. So I worry about their future though as much as I worry about my own daughter's future. So it's big.
But they when I started looking into it, I was like, that the Call of Duty console scene is so mired in social media that they almost treat it as the means to do everything, right? So I saw people announcing free agency on Twitter when people were telling me actually they've still got a contract. I saw people basically signing contracts, and I was like, "Oh, you've got a contract, right?" No, it's a Twitter DM. They would literally have the terms outlined in Twitter DMs, and I was like, "This, how can a scene this big?"
Yeah. Be so
operate on such an amateurish level. So I'm very intrigued to kind of pick your brains about that, because how's that possible? How was that sustainable? And why even now, do things like this still go on when clearly as proof of concept, console Call of Duty has succeeded. It is a big deal. So why is that type of behavior still considered the norm?
Lack of leadership in some instances, absolutely. I mean, you have your organizations that are very well established, and then they have good leadership where they would see counsel and then say this is like Twitter DMs and all that like that. I hadn't heard that yet, but it doesn't surprise me. As you were saying that, I'm like, sure. In my head, I'm like, I can see this team doing that and these players doing it. So yeah, no, I don't know. There's really no explanation for that. I just think that people that step into the Call of Duty scene, they see a big, massive social media audience that they can turn into social media currency for their sponsorships and their deliverables. That they just say, you know what, here's an easy entry point. Let's get a Call of Duty team. It's the Wild West out there. There's teams that are gonna just like totally sketch out on a Twitter DM contract, which I again first time hearing it. Where it's like, all right, so here comes an organization with an actual contract, and they're like, all right, here's the contract. Don't worry about that other stuff. And it happens. And I think that was like a little bit of fuel that added to like the scene in a sense, right? Like when everything is happening on Twitter, right? Like when people are getting into fights, it happens on Twitter. When people are leaving their team, their announcement is on Twitter. So immediately that triggers something on you. You're like, holy shit, I'm not going to miss this announcement today. I can't. But my friend has a Twitter. He told me because he found out through Twitter. I got to get that. I got to make that. It's what added to the fuel, I think. So our how do I say it? That one negative point that is like how young, as far as business goes, how young Call of Duty as a space was in that sort of business also created a little bit of fuel that made us grow in that space.
You talk about lack of leadership. I mean, I guess that's a big deal, especially when there's so many young people, right? Like Call of Duty is a very young game. The fans are young, the players are young.
Yeah.
Like we're probably still young guys by society standards, but we're like the grandpas of esports. So tell me about that. Like, why is there a lack of leadership? Like it seems to me there should always be people that have the skills, that have the life experience that just kind of naturally rise to the top. But you're right. I do see a lot of almost childish nonsense coming out of the Call of Duty scene because there isn't really any kind of parental or adult figures there.
Yeah, and I know that's a lot of the perception in all of esports that Call of Duty is like that sort of Wild West is like immature-ish and that, but you also have to take into account that we have almost mastered the art in a sense of social media, right? Because certain behaviors and certain memes and certain certain things that you say trigger somebody to say something else, and you were totally baiting them the entire time. So in sense of that being an immature thing, it sure is, absolutely. But it's also part of the culture within gaming on Twitter in such a small part, but it becomes such a big thing and such a massive audience that it transcends just our space, and that inside joke that was within Call of Duty got picked up by somebody in another esport, and then it turns into like, wow, look how immature they are, when it was totally an inside kind of joke in a way.
Yeah, but there you go, right? So that's good, because this is kind of where I was going with this. You make it sound like the secret to success is almost this perpetual drama machine. Like I say something, and then some guy responds, and then in the discussion, in the noise about who's right, pick a side. Are you with Hector or are you with I know some other fucking college? I won't name names because
Castro.
Yeah,
Astro.
okay, Astro. It's a bit of a sore subject actually on this show, but we'll talk about that if you want.
Okay.
Later.
No, Astro's like my brother. So
yeah, well, no, no. Listen, he fucked me over. He publicly said I was like drama fucking whore, and so I was like, what the fuck's that about? Like, just because I said I think it's wrong that T Martin is still on the board of EnVyUs, and I stand by that opinion. But we'll get into that. We'll get into gambling. Gambling's coming. Right. Yeah, but like this idea of this perpetual drama machine that does generate clicks. I see it all the time, and some people do it way more than others and way worse than others. I'm seeing FaZe members like, I'm gonna be homeless. I think, motherfucker, come on. You know what I'm saying? So I think one of the reasons why people might look over at the Call of Duty scene and be like, guys, really, is because there always seems to be some sort of drama, some bullshit, and it lacks substance, but it generates traffic, it generates attention. So, do you advocate for that? I guess.
Yes and no, right? Like again, when you say Call of Duty, you see Call of Duty players, and you can't associate Call of Duty players and YouTube personalities in Call of Duty to esports, right? And it's a weird mix, especially in OpTic, because like all of my esports players are now YouTube personalities or on their way to become YouTube personalities. So when the guys in FaZe do that, they do it so well. And like I think again, that there's the esports side of FaZe, and then there's the YouTube side of FaZe, which happen to be Call of Duty players. And I don't think it's wrong, right? Because on YouTube, there's this, like, if you're a YouTuber and you've been around long enough, you know that there's like 3 games. Like YouTube itself is almost like a video game, and there's like 3 games being played, right? It's the game of the title. What are you gonna title your video that's going to generate a click, that's going to entice somebody to do it? And then there's your thumbnail, right? Visually, what's going to make somebody click it? And then, lastly, the most important part is, how do you keep them, now that you have them, how do you retain them? And I think that FaZe does like a phenomenal job at doing that. But on the esports side, we sometimes get that overcast of like clickbaiting or drama. And the whole drama thing like didn't start becoming a big thing until like mid last year. So we had this like amazing, like well-established growth up until then, and then it seems that as that like kind of overtook a little bit, right? Because you have Keemstar, who in person is a good dude, right? Like I know his online persona is way different. Yeah. So and in person, when you know the guy, I know that this is always controversial when I say it, but if you ever meet him in person, like he's a different Keem than what you see as his show. But he started out in Halo, and then he had like this thing, and then he moved into Call of Duty because of like how big it was, and people just want to see content, right? Like people are always willing to consume content about what their interests are. And when drama became a thing, like everybody started seeing like, holy shit, there's a lot of clicks, maybe let's do that. And then it started becoming heavily focused on that, and maybe factual lines were blurred at some point, but they still threw it up there. Anyway, it's just a thing, right? It's the blur between YouTube entertainment and then esports, and it's a blurry line sometimes, unfortunately.
I mean, I think especially when it comes to the YouTube stuff, like, I just get this kind of fatigue, from it. Like, and I'll be honest, I engaged in this behavior myself a while back. What I quickly realized was that if I stated my very blunt and honest opinion on Twitter, especially if it was about somebody who had a larger audience than me, what would happen is they would bounce back their rebuttals. More and more people would be like, well, who the fuck's this guy? So every time I had an argument with Total Biscuit, which, before me and John kissed and made up, that happened on a couple of occasions, I think. And it was the same with like Evil Geniuses, right? I'd call them out about, scams or whatever. I quickly realized, shit, this is actually getting, me a following. So there were times that, if I'm being honest, I would just go on Twitter and be like, I think I'm just going to toss a grenade in today and just see what happens, right? I'm just going to start some shit and just see what happens. But now, when I look at it on the YouTube level, I just get so bored of it, dude. Like, like we all know Leafy's a fucking idiot. Like, his content's appallingly bad. I don't know who it's geared to, but obviously it's popular, and that's fine, right? Like, if you like it, watch it. If you don't. But this idea of like, okay, well, he's got 4.5 million subs, so, and I've got 2 a million subs. So if I like attack him, maybe I get some of his subs. And this constant exposed videos, right?
Yeah.
Exposed. Like no one's ever exposed. It's just a bunch of shit. It's not like an expose, like someone dug up something really, really bad. It's always just a YouTuber saying another YouTuber's a two-faced piece of shit. Well, guess what? They're all two-faced pieces of shit, right? They're all just trying to climb over each other until they can get into that PewDiePie realm of just being able to do whatever the fuck you want. And it makes no sense to me, because actually it's a clique in and of itself. They all sit in Skype groups, they all hang out with each other, they all share information, they're all friends at one point, they all take advice when they first come in, they've all helped each other out and given everyone a leg up. It just seems such a crazy fucking way to live, with this constant perpetual drama in exchange for hits. You don't make content to make content. It's you make content about the drama that you created, and that's just so hollow to me. That just whenever I see that, I do recoil a little bit these days. I think I must be getting old, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I think that, look, if people are watching it, then it's, look, if you're creating something as shitty as it might seem to somebody, it's a point of opinion at that point, right? Who are we to say what, a million people want to watch for 10 minutes on the daily, right? Like I can never offer an opinion on that, because just because I don't like it doesn't mean that people are dumb for liking it, or that they shouldn't be watching.
And I'm not saying that so much. It's not like, look, the audience can watch whatever they want, but I think just these constant drives, like, let's make YouTube great again by getting rid of Keemstar. How does that make YouTube great? I fail to see the problem here. If you don't like it, just don't watch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do I need another 20 videos? From like one YouTuber telling me why Keemstar's a piece of shit. I mean, that was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen, actually. Like right, whatever you think about Keemstar, right? Like, look, the guy is a provocateur, right? Like, and that's probably is crediting him with a lot more intelligence than he actually possesses. But like, I don't mind. I like what he does. I think there was always a niche for the TMZ of YouTube, right? And he filled it, and that's great. But when I see like just a bunch of YouTubers get together and be like, let's just regurgitate the same thing. Yes, he's used the N-word in the past, yes, we all used to be friends, and he said stuff behind my back and all this, and you're just spitting it out over and over again to expose him, like to drive him off YouTube, to people contacting YouTube, people saying drama channels are a problem on YouTube. No, they're not. Again, it's content. Just don't watch it. I kind of feel sometimes that, like I say, I get drama fatigue. Like I just feel now it's like it's having drama to generate content about the drama. The whole thing's fake.
Yes. But again, it's up to the content creator, right? Like, I was actually surprised when YouTube stepped in and said, we're going to demonetize this and demonetize that, because YouTube's inner culture has always been, let the creators create. We're just a platform. We're not, let's just let them create. Who are we to say what's good creation and what's not? Let's keep the porn off and like the really bad shit off of here, and then we should be good. But that's why I was surprised when they did that, because content is content. If people choose to consume it, they consume it. If you hate it, as much as you hate it, it's not for you. Just tune away. Don't look at it.
How do you feel about it? How do you feel about all this YouTube heroes and all this bullshit?
Yeah, you know what? I was born in 1980. To date myself, I was in high school when there was no internet, and I come from a culture where like snitches get stitches, right? Unless it's like something seriously bad, you should just let people do what they're doing, right? Unless they're negatively affecting somebody, right? If you see somebody stealing, like from anywhere, then sure, so don't turn a blind eye. If somebody's getting beaten up, don't turn a blind eye. I get that. I get all of that. But as far as like just snitching to snitch, that's, again, not within my culture.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't like the the direction YouTube's kind of heading in right now, and I think that old attitude of we just provide the platform. Yeah. The content is up to you. Yeah. That attitude's dying across the board. Like Twitter are becoming more censorious now. They've got shadow bans on Twitter. And they're, banning a lot of people who are of a more conservative thought process than basically the owner of Twitter is imposing his political landscape onto his platform. Reddit's a joke. and has been for the longest period of time. And now YouTube's kind of falling in line with that. So I guess just while we're at this juncture, let's say, for example, YouTube does become this dystopian branch of like the new Stasi, where there's such a thing as thought crime and content's being demonetized if it's even vaguely controversial. What would that mean for someone like OpTic, who obviously, they still make a large chunk of their money through YouTube. They have a huge presence on YouTube, because it would be quite a boon if I was a video platform, and whoever it might be, whoever would try and fill that void, to get OpTic on board, right? So, I mean, is that something that you've ever thought about being prepared for? That if you ever had to have an exodus from YouTube?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. If you can't rely on somebody else's platform to have your business succeed the same way that you cannot rely on championships to make your business succeed, in a sense, are we prepared for it? Sure. Like there's always an option. Luckily with technology and what we've learned in the last 10 years that we've been a company, we've thought of all of this, right? Like what's the worst case scenario? We have to go back to work. All right, let's not go back to work. What do we do? If YouTube goes away, what other platforms are there? Do we create our own platform and then be self-governing and use the platform that we created to advertise? There's an endless amount of things that you can do. Will it be a big blow? Absolutely. It's a way of life, right? YouTube literally changed it's cheesy as it sounds, it like changed my life, right? I was going to work every single day wearing a suit and tie, and growing up, I always said, I'm gonna be somebody that wears a suit and a tie because I want to be a respectable person. As a young kid, right? Living in Mexico. But then as I grew older and I experienced what it was to wear a tie to work and the politics, I was like, now I'm like, all right, weddings, funerals, and maybe like the conferences or whatever. But yeah, I think that if you're not prepared for the easy to think enemies that can affect your business, then you're not preparing for your business to succeed. You have your plan A and then you have your plan B.
So you brought up, and I should have probably brought this up at the beginning, but these interviews aren't, structured. It's just a conversation. So, right. You're talking about growing up, and you've already mentioned, the culture that you're from. It sounds like, and I would imagine to a very different degree. But I'm from a working background, poor family, grew up in a rough neighborhood, and I always found that the skills that I'd acquired over the course of my life, that I'd had, those experiences, they equipped me to deal with esports on the one hand, because it was like, this just is nothing compared to what I'm used to. Like this is a cakewalk, some guy, flaming me online or whatever. It's just laughable. And also I've got a bit of life skills, and like I could manage players quite easily, players who'd never been away or traveled for the first time. I was out the house at 16, which is, I imagine, is unthinkable for a large part, of this new generation that's coming through. But on the other hand, it also gave me a mindset that isn't always appropriate, as we saw, for example, with the Dota 2 situation at DreamHack, right? Like someone gets in my face, my instant reaction.
Yeah, of course.
But now I have to defend myself and push this guy away. Yeah, and I didn't hesitate to do that. And of course, everyone said it's esports, dude. Like no one's gonna hit you.
No. Well, see, when I saw that, I was already a fan, but when I saw that you did that, I was like, that's my kind of guy right there. Because this mentality of having no repercussions for your actions, whether they're verbal or actual, like physical, it's insane to me, because again, I come from a high school, right? And I come from a background similar like yours, where I grew up in a place like in the part of Mexico I grew up is Juarez, Mexico. I was born in Texas, but I lived in Juarez, and in that city, in my age, like, to give you like two short examples, right? When I was a kid and my dad worked the night shift, there were nights where there were like people like running on our roof, and we can hear the stomps, and my mom screaming over to like my uncle who was our neighbor, saying, help, there's people like trying to get into our house. I'm 6 years old and my sister's like 5, so I'm freaking out. We don't have a phone. And even if you had a phone, you call the cops. They're not going to be there for like 20 to 30 minutes, right? So after the deed's been done. So, and growing up and going to school and living in that sort of neighborhood, like it sort of teaches you how to have respect for everybody because that's what you have to do. And now, growing in an age where internet wasn't a thing, where you couldn't just blindly post something and be protected by a screen or be protected because you're miles away, right? I grew up where if you said something, it was going to get to the person that said it. And if the person that said it didn't agree with it, it's going to come to your face. So when I heard that some dude came up to you and got in your face and you like grabbed him, I'm like, that would have been my exact reaction, right?
Yeah.
Because
but everyone's saying we're crazy. Everyone's saying we're fucking dinosaurs, Hector. No. I don't know if this is news to you.
Yeah, it is.
But apparently we're wrong. Like people, you don't have a right to defend yourself anymore.
Well, no, you do. Absolutely.
Well, I thought so, but
especially in America. In America, you definitely do. I mean, I'm sure England too, with
exactly. I mean, that's what I was trying to explain to people. I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't normal in Sweden, but if
were you in Sweden?
Yeah, when it happened, yeah.
So I was like, you're in the wrong. You're in the wrong. Okay,
yeah, I was in the wrong town. Right? But if a guy does that, then but I look back at that and I think, the real truth of it is, I was in uncharted territory. I felt threatened. I didn't know who the guy was, in terms of what is he capable of, right?
Yeah, of course. And you don't know.
So if it's gonna be, me getting a broken jaw, or me, putting him in a very reasonable defensive hold, I'm gonna choose option 2, right? And that's coming from a neighborhood where, in those altercations, it escalated really quick.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been in similar situations growing up as well, right?
I have, yeah, no, several times. But like I always choose like the opposite. Right? I don't like confrontation and physical altercation is like the last resort. And it comes up because like if I ever got in a fight, like I would have to get my ass beat at home by my dad, right? Like my dad was very, very strict. And he was always very very open about what would happen if you fucked up in any way, right? So I like fighting was like my last resort. Even now, like I mean, obviously I have a brain. I know how to communicate and I know how to diffuse a situation. But if at any point my space gets invaded, I'm gonna have to respectfully take care of myself.
Yeah, and I was quite fortunate in that regard because my dad was in prison, so I never had to worry. I never had to worry about that, right?
Oh no, my dad loved me, so he would never do that. Go to prison.
He went away when I was very young. But yeah, so I'm intrigued. Tell me a little bit more about growing up. Would you describe yourself as a delinquent? Did you sail close to the wind? I can target points in my life where I think, holy fucking shit, like if that situation goes another way, then I'm not here right now, like I'm probably working some menial fucking job with some convictions on my record,
Absolutely, man. Many times I at the age of 16, I discovered this talent that I was really good at drawing, but then I was really good at drawing letters. And then I was drawing graffiti next thing you know, and painting, illegally painting walls and illegally painting trains. And I was just like, I wasn't even enamored with a brush or the fact that I was doing something illegal. I was just literally loved painting and creating and letting my, artistic side flow, whatever. But, it didn't last long. My dad was very clear as what would happen if I got in trouble. He said, we didn't move to this country for you to, fuck up. And that's always been like my thing, right? Like making right by my parents, and now my family. So, there were certain situations where if I wouldn't have done what I did, or go the other way, then my life would be not what it is today. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And you painted Xboxes as well, right?
I did that. I did that when I started when I left AIG, or the insurance company that I worked for, to do that, because my now wife was 7 months pregnant when I lost my job, and we were literally about to we're about to have our first kid, and I was about to dive feet first into an unproven industry that is video games, right? Or YouTube. We'll call it that, not video games, but YouTube. And to make ends meet before I got paid, I would sell my art very cheap, and that's like something that I'm glad I'll never have to do again, ever. But yeah, I would paint Xboxes, I would paint faceplates, like anything, just to get a little bit of cash to help with the bills, because at the time she was the only one working. She was pregnant, so as soon as she gave birth, like there was gonna be nothing but our savings that we'd live off of. So it was tough, man. Like I lost my, I went from making a lot of money in the mortgage industry to that industry boot.
Shit, right? Yeah, I see, man. Fuck, that financial collapse fucked you hard.
Yeah,
right?
That's me. That's all me. Put it on me. Yes, I did it. But yeah, no, I was killing it, right? Making a lot of money when I was like 24 to 26, and then it went kaboom and it busted, and it was bad, man. Lost all my good cars. Got knocked down pretty hard, but it's cool. I mean,
what were you thinking when that happened, brother? Because I mean, I can't think. I've been in that position. I mean, that's literally how I doubled down on esports, right? So I was in a position in my life where I was, I'd had the dream job come in.
Yep.
CGS, right? Championship Gaming Series. This is it. You've made it. You're going to be on TV. And with that job came a job offer to be a kind of personality/manager at the UK's biggest LAN center. All I had to do was kind of manage a league and go out and do some videos and talk to people and just hang out. I had an office with like 12 PCs in it, and could just hang out and play games all day. It was great. And I was like, yeah, this is it. I've made it. And then that first CGS collapses, and then that financial collapse fucks everything.
Yep.
And the LAN center I worked for was actually being funded by like some Kazakhstanis that were being investigated by fucking Interpol or something. We were getting paid cash out of a safe.
Yeah.
And that goes under. And then I've got nothing. And I'm in a strange city that I've moved down to, haven't lived there. I had to move in with a friend. I'm sleeping in his spare room. He's just got married. I'm destroying their marriage because, you can hear the conversations through the paper-thin walls. When's he going to get out of here? And I'm like, oh, God, please. Like,
Did you ever feel like saying, like, never?
Yeah, never.
Like, when are you leaving?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's my friend.
Divorced now, right? So, I like to think, mind you, I don't talk to him either, so fuck it. That went south pretty fast. But anyway, I said to myself, I'm going to take this fucking plunge. I'm going to take the plunge. I'm going to go all in on esports. And, I've said this many times. Like, I was just going to check the fuck out. Like, if it didn't work out, then I'm not going back to the office job. I'm not going back to the grind. I couldn't go back to the Northeast, cap in hand, and have to see all my old friends again and be like, yeah, okay, I fucked up. I wasn't going to do that. So when you were staring into this, like, unknown abyss that is, like, doubling down on fucking YouTube, kid on the way, wife, sole breadwinner in the house, like, you must have been fucking terrified, dude.
Oh man, yeah. Luckily, Judith, my wife, was like was crazy, like nuts. And I'm not just saying that because I mean, she was crazy, right? To allow me to do that, to say, yeah, you're, I mean, every so often she'd be like, every time I'd be like, baby, this is gonna work, like blah blah, this is happening, this is a possibility. She'd like, just show me the money. That's all she would say. She wouldn't say, well, where's the money? How are you helping? Nothing. She was cool about it. She'd be like, show me the money. Show me the money. By the seventh month, I would like see Cuba Gooding Jr. like in her face, in her demeanor. I'm like, how much TV are you watching? But she was very cool. So that was like the number one thing that helped throughout the whole thing, because like if you don't have a supportive, partner, like just believing in you the way that she believed in me, like none of this would have happened, because all it takes is a tiny little bit of stress added to what you're already stressed about, right? Like how are you going to pay for this trip that's coming to a LAN and like all that got take, like she didn't add on to my stresses, and that's what was awesome. But I never not once had a thought where I said this may not work. Never. I always knew that it was going to work. I never had a shadow of a doubt that it was going to work. And and partly because she had my back like that. So if everything at home was okay, like what else matters?
Right. So this is where it's going to start getting interesting. I want to talk about greed.
Yeah.
Greed, the most fundamental of human qualities. A lot of people have said that the Call of Duty guys are just, fucking inherently greedy. That they've got these huge followings. They've cracked that social media code. They've cracked the formula, and they're so used to having everything spun into gold that you get lots of them that are just, super fucking greedy, only financially focused, and it's all about the bottom line. Now, obviously, this is going to spin on into the gambling stuff and everything else, but I just want to get your take on it first of all, because one of the things I actually like about you is I can't honestly think of an example. Sam probably, maybe he can chime in, but I can't think of an example of when I've thought, hey, there's that Hector guy doing something that I would, label greedy. I'm not just saying it because you're on the show, but I can't think of an example if there is a fucking example.
No, I'm really good at hiding it.
Yeah, well, maybe right. And hey, look, Gordon Gecko, right? Greed is good. I don't give a fuck, right? But I mean, I think there's this feeling that Call of Duty guys are fucking greedy people. Like they're so used to the money.
Is it the fact that is it only Call of Duty people, or is it the fact that the Call of Duty people that are doing it have large followings and in terms a bigger flashlight on them, if you may?
Well, okay. Well, let's take a look at some of the evidence. And again, like one of the reasons why I like OpTic is, I've never seen them associated with anything that I consider to be incredibly negative or greedy right out of the bat. But again, I mean, some people might talk about the nade shot MLG TV shit. I guess we can talk about that. But let's just start. Like I look at FaZe. Obviously, I have a very hard time finding anything good to say about FaZe anymore. Not just because of their strange ties to CS:GO Wild and their non-declaration, but that stuff with that game they designed and that was $20K, and then the game never comes out. This constant milking of their fan base for what seems to be like a direct kind of conversion into cash. I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And obviously you got guys like T. Martin. I think I'm on the record as basically calling T. Martin a fucking deplorable human being. And honestly, I think he might have something a bit wrong with his brain, because this is a guy who, while you've got all these, class action lawsuits and all this scandal and shit going on around you, you get involved in what looks like a fucking pyramid scheme for an app that they say, oh, we're not gambling, but you can bet on sports outcomes, but it's not gambling. I would probably be keeping a low profile, but it's like, hey, shit, I got to go out there and I got to make my money. So just before, and fucking just all the gambling sites all seem to have ties to Call of Duty stuff. So I think when people look at that in isolation, they just go, yeah, fuck, these guys are just fucking greedy. And they're using something that isn't entirely about them to basically line their pockets.
Sure, but again, it's what do they say about not judging a whole community over the actions of one individual or two individuals or three individuals?
I agree. Like, we're talking about leadership and the lack of leadership. So when those notable figures act up, and it resonates. It has a more profound impact on the perception.
Well, look, I'm very, very close friends with T. Martin. I mean, when I mean close friends, I mean like every single time I've seen him or had interactions with him. Again, I tend to see the good in people maybe, but at the same time, like I literally, I don't know. I think some of the stuff that he did, he got lost in the whole. When you're young. And you're growing up in a space where like you're making money and a lot of it, right, on YouTube and doing that. Like the only thing that there's left to do is to find other ways to continue to build your success, right? Because otherwise you're doing yourself a disfavor in a sense, and you're not taking advantage of the full opportunity that other people wish they were in, right? So with a certain amount of success, especially in this space, especially in YouTube, I think, and I mean this because again I worked in corporate America for a very long time, so I know what it's like to not have this fucking amazingly unbelievable dream job that I have, right? As far as the actions that they took to to do or not to do, I don't know. Until there's like a judgment passed by some sort of like legal
entity. It's the lip service, Hector, that annoys me, right? It's the lip service. It's the fact that, every day, I'm blocked on T Martin's Twitter now for some reason. But every day I would look at his Twitter feed and he'd be like, hey, I love you fans. You mean everything to me. Here's a picture of my house. Here's a picture of my car. This is all only possible thanks to you guys.
But it is. It's true.
Right, yeah, okay, cool. So why the fuck would you then shit all over that fan base by not, trying to fool them into, oh, I've just found this cool website, and it's what I don't understand. Like, it's like you've done the hard part. You've built the fan base. Yeah. Now all you've got to do is just not lie to them.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do. Just be honest with them.
Yeah,
and that's it. You're made. You're set for life. You might not make the big bucks, but it's like that old adage about, you don't just sell a guy one car once. You sell him 10 cars over his lifetime, right? If you do right by the fans, they'll always do right by you. That's my experience. And sure, I don't have a huge fan base like T Martin does, but I can't believe the disconnect in saying that. Fuck, I love you guys. I love you guys. By the way, I'm lying to you guys. Shut the fuck up. Give me your money.
I see that.
I think Call of Duty, from outside scenes, like CS guys are just like.
Well, you can't say Call of Duty. I mean, just because he plays NBA 2K too. So it's that.
Okay,
I know. Listen, Call of Duty to me, like, again, is such a dear place in my heart. So I sometimes get mad when people like categorize like all of Call of Duty into this one thing because of the action and stuff. But I agree. This is something that I told them. I'm like, you have like this passionate family. If they said, hey guys, we just started this new website where you can do this and that, I think that it would have had the same exact success that it did by not. So it was a misstep in my opinion. So
why did OpTic stay out of the skins betting? Why did you stay away from gambling?
I don't know. You know what? I don't know. We didn't get there quick enough. It wasn't a main priority. I don't know. There's again, it's those things where had an opportunity presented itself, I would have looked at it. I obviously would have known better. In certain situations, what not to do. Right? We would have called it OpTic Skins more than likely because I just love branding everything OpTic. We sponsored a UFC fighter and put our logo on him for fuck's sake, right?
Still Reebok game along, right?
Yeah, Reebok. Sellouts, right? I'm kidding. Or no, buyouts. What do you call those?
Yeah.
What do you call the people that
knows?
Yeah, no. I don't know, man. Just many different things. It was just not meant for us to be in that particular thing.
But it sounds like you did mull it over. You had a name. You took a look at it.
Well, I mean, Yeah, I mean, having a name for anything, like if I always said it by the time, and I know this is like a little bit, I always said that by the time I die, I would have owned a taco truck, right? Because I love eating tacos, but more than that, I love cooking them, right? So I would have named that
OpTic Tacos.
That's what I'm saying. Like I would put OpTic anything. So we had a name. We have a name for everything. If you just put OpTic, and we want to say chairs, OpTic chairs, microphone, OpTic microphones. You don't need to get creative with it, okay? Just put OpTic in front of it, and that's what it is. Did we mull it over? Like, when we saw that it was a booming business, yeah. But again, doing the due diligence would have been definitely a part of the thing.
So that kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier. Right. So Hastro, who's a guy, and much like yourself, when he first came into Counter-Strike, he was a guy that, I got to meet. We'd done interviews and stuff together. He'd always been pretty cool. When the old website cadred.org was branching out into other games, Hastro was like I think he might even have been the first console player we ever interviewed on that site. And a young journalist called Jeff Kim did that, and he was completely great, always very cooperative, super nice, polite guy. So when Hastro said he was coming in to Counter-Strike and he wanted to get to know the lay of the land, I was like, dude, happy to fucking repay that courtesy, that politeness. And he reached out to Scoots and he'd reached out to me. And we were basically helping him, make the connections about, this. Okay, these teams are good. This is how it all works. These are the events. This is what the calendar looks like. Just little things, just while he was looking about making his big move to get an EnVyUs team.
Yeah.
And, I think that somebody who comes in to any new scene, has to kind of be respectful of that, and just understand the lay of the land, appreciate what the fans like. So having T Martin associated with your brand while you're still operating in CS, to me, is not cool. I don't want to drive T Martin to the ends of the earth and have him publicly flogged, or do that scene from Game of Thrones where people are throwing shit at him and shame. I don't want to do any of that, right? Like, he fucked up. I want him to pay whatever the appropriate penance is for that, and then just get on with his life. I'm not a zealot, but I do think it's inappropriate if you operate in the CS space to have a guy who effectively was just using that scene, that community, to profit and lied to that community. I do think it's inappropriate to have him on the board, even if he only has a small part and has no operational influence. If that's true, just cut him the fuck loose. And Mike came out and said, "Oh, there's going to be an investigation." We've heard nothing about that, and that to me is a bit of a misstep. I don't know if you have any feelings about that. Like, you don't need to speak specifically about these people because I know they're your friends, but let's just imagine you had a situation. You had a guy who had lied about ownership of a gambling site. He worked for OpTic. It came out. It was a big scandal, and he's on the board of OpTic, and you want to operate in the CS space. What would you do?
Well, I can't speak for the EnVy org, but in OpTic we have this cut the rope mentality, right? If you're bringing somebody down, or if you're affecting somebody else within the team, you have to let it, you have to let go, or I'll come in with the scissors and do it for you. But that's always been our mentality, right? We never negatively affect each other. So that they would have to cut away from us.
Yeah. So I mean, and this is the problem as well. It makes it so hard now. Like, you guys, right? I said this when the big Call of Duty orgs were coming in, the Counter-Strike. I was like, this is great. This is really good for us. This is going to help the growth of the game. This is completely fucking positive. EnVyUs kind of led the way. I know you were trying to get in for a while because shit, we had those conversations. And fuck, that was tough. Real tough, right? But like I felt so good about them being here, and then this skins gambling shit it's kind of soured it a bit for me, because it wasn't endemic Counter-Strike organizations that were involved in this. Yeah. It was people from the outside.
Would it have changed your opinion of it if it was somebody from the Counter-Strike community, maybe a player or somebody within the Counter-Strike that created these things and ultimately took the same route that it took?
Okay, so I guess we can use Moe as an example. Moe is somebody I've known for years. Yeah, and I love that guy, right? Like, people don't know the guy like I know the guy. I go back to fucking CGS with him. We've traveled back from France together, from LAN events, when he's come over to Europe. I really like the guy. He's a very generous, warm, funny human being in person. He made working at E-League a lot of fun. It was super fun to be around. He gave us all a big lift. We were all mega nervous about being on TV, and he really broke up that tension, right? Then when you see him engaged, he's always been financially driven. Now, when you see him engaged in something like publicly outing himself, which fucking blew my mind, like, just don't say anything, to basically try, like, he fucked himself out of like $500,000 to get like 50,000. Made his position at E-League untenable, because how can we put somebody involved in that kind of thing on fucking American TV? Yeah. Just really, really sad. So does it alter my perception? Like, we've talked privately, me and Moe, about it, and I'm like, dude, like you completely fucked up. That's not how you should be operating. The game has given you a lot down the years, but I think Moe's more of the opinion that because he played in that scene back when we had nothing, Moe struggled at one point to make ends meet. Even when he was a big salaried player, he still wasn't making shit. Yeah. So I kind of feel like he thinks now it's my time to get. Yeah. I paid my dues. I should get something out of it. I look at the Call of Duty guys, and it's like, They've already got the flash cars. They've already got the big houses. And they want to come into something new and just mine it for money. So I think in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of like more deplorable. But I still rightly condemn Moe.
Yeah. I just think, again, and maybe it's just my mentality. I don't expect anybody within the Call of Duty community or YouTube community to agree with me on this. But I just think that, you know, when you literally have worked on everything that you just want to continue to build and build and build, it's like, you just want to continue to add on to whatever it is that you've already built, so you continue to do that. You know, we early last year we dabbled in fantasy, in Call of Duty Fantasy, but that went nowhere, right? Like there wasn't enough traction there to do that. And had it gone the way that I wanted to, maybe that would have drove us into the skin betting thing. So again, it was just like not meant to be for me to be in that situation. But I'm not ashamed or afraid to say, yeah, you know, we would have, or maybe, you know, if the situation was different or the opportunity presented itself, I would have, because I don't know, you know, it didn't happen. So I can't say yes or no, or but I'm definitely not going to say no, because I don't know what would have happened. But yeah, you know, again, in Call of Duty specifically, is because I don't know if it's, and again, I don't speak for everyone, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know if it's the chip on our shoulder that we're not, you know, a T1 esports the way the League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike, and they are, right? We're down a couple of notches. But I like that makes me want to be like, all right, we got to work harder. We got to, you know, try to assemble as much as we can to hopefully one day bump shoulders with the big ones, right? I don't know what it is. Maybe a chip on the shoulder, or the fact that we, you know, that we've been in YouTube long enough to where we know that, all right, now that this is stable, what else do we got to do? What else do we do, right? And to T Martin's, and I'm not defending that specific action, but like he's the perfect example of like an entertainer-preneur, which has on his the Entertainer-preneur, because
is that a term you've just invented?
No, he's used it for a long time, and I always loved it because it touches a lot of my chords, right? But like he's got properties that, like, he took some of the money that he was making on YouTube and immediately started investing it. He didn't go out and buy a fucking sick car, which he could have, or, you know, these crazy things. Instead, he invested in the properties and what was going to, you know, help his later years, not the present. So again, you know, maybe he had it in that mentality where it's like, all right, I'm an entrepreneur. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. And this thing came up and he's like, shit, you know, there's an opportunity here, and just ran with it blindly without, you know, checking his corners.
So linking that back to what I kind of just touched on before, obviously the whole nade shots, you know, MLG TV thing that was going on. You know, I definitely wanted to talk about this because I think we're entering into a time where I think MLG were trying to be a little bit ahead of the curve, maybe, and having their own platform and trying to get exclusivity, and it was universally condemned. But I think we're getting to a stage where I think someone's going to make a run at that again now. You know, I've heard rumors that maybe, you know, Twitch might be involved in trying to get their own competitive circuit going. I certainly know that YouTube definitely is super pissed off about the antitrust stuff, preventing them from acquiring Twitch back when Amazon did it. And I'm still waiting for their big play, honestly, in esports and live streaming. I'm still waiting for when it's going to come. But I think when it does, it's going to look a lot like what MLG TV tried to kind of pioneer. Now, I know a lot was talked about at the time, and when I do these interviews and have this conversational aspect, I always just want to get the straight dope. Like, I've read the PR spin, I've read MLG's take on it, I've read Nadeshot's take on it, you know, but I know the truth will be somewhere in between. So I'm kind of wanting to pick your brain and just get an honest appraisal of what happened with that whole MLG TV exclusivity thing that really pitched Nadeshot and OpTic Gaming kind of at, you know, the league owners when it came to broadcasting Call of Duty.
Yeah, I think it was more of a video platform play than a league play, you know, because we still competed in ESL and at the time, you know, they were offering good money for that service, and I do think that you know, the rumors are true. I think that at some point or another there's going to be another run at exclusivity, and whether it's on a video platform stance or whether it's on a league, you can only compete in this league. Like I don't know where that goes, because in this space you're still, you as a player, you as a team owner, and even as a developer, you're trying to find your place. This whole shit is new. Nobody that's an artist, a video game artist, whether it's in Riot or Activision or Blizzard or Valve, nobody that was creating this artwork, right, which is like a mobile application where you're going to be able to, not a mobile application, but a moving picture where you're going to be able to interact and make certain things happen. Nobody thought that this was going to become a sport, right? Yeah. So when it started to become that, when the competition aspect of it started to become what it is, the players were there like, holy shit, I'm an athlete in my respective way. I'm an athlete. And then the owner is like, holy shit, this is going to be like traditional sports. And then the owners of the game were like, well, we just create a game. You know, we have no place in this. But then the league started to come in, and some leagues were egregious, and some were, too overbearing. And then, the players are like, well, fuck this league. We don't want to be here, or, this organization is taking advantage of us. What are you doing, Valve? What are you doing, Activision, Blizzard? Where are you? And then, the people that set out to create a video game, not a sport, now have to be like, are we a governing body? Do we have to step in and say, you know what? You cannot broadcast our shit anymore, Twitch, YouTube. You cannot, do this or that, right? So in this whole mix of this esports phenomenon that's happening, everybody's starting to find their place. And at some point, like leagues, obviously Activision bought MLG, so they bought a league. Does that mean that ESL and UMG are no longer going to be able to do that? I don't know. I'm just waiting in the wind. So I'm not going to panic because that doesn't do any good. I'm not trying to predict it because it's too unpredictable. I'm just going to try to stay at least one day ahead of the curve, and hopefully it gets us to where we need to be.
Do you feel that that's the way to go, though? I mean, like, because obviously when MLG TV announced that Nade Shot was going to be exclusive, and that they had all this growth. I think they said they had a 1,376% growth in viewership was in the press release. They put all of this stuff out. That seemed to be like, oh shit, that's a power play by MLG TV, but it never really clicked. It never really worked out. And I don't know if it worked out for OpTic either, because obviously when that deal ended, Nadeshot came out publicly and said that is like one of the biggest fucking regrets I ever had in my life is leaving Twitch behind to do that. And again, I think it maybe ties in a little bit. Some people said it was a cash grab. Some people said it's fine saying it's a big regret now, but his legitimacy, OpTic's legitimacy, led to other Call of Duty people agreeing to sign with MLG TV as well, to work with MLG TV, that it could have been a good move for them. And then come out afterwards retroactively and say it was a bad move. Some people condemn them. I didn't feel that strongly about it. I think if you just look at it in isolation, it was obviously fiscally prudent to make that move. So what's your whole take on it now with the dust is long settled on it? Yeah,
you know what? I think that MLG was a little bit too quick to act on an idea. I don't think the platform was that. It wasn't a complete shit platform, right? Like the chat had problems, but they did a couple of things right. Like early on, in order to chat, you had to connect your Twitter account to it, and that led to a lot of worldwide trending, right? Because it would the second that you type, like it worked and it didn't. I think that it depends on what role you played in what movie. As that happened, then you everybody's like their own hero in their own movie, and then there's villains, right? So it depends on who you ask. For us, like live streaming wasn't that big of a deal. And I don't think it still is like a big of a deal for us. Yes, it's an important, absolutely. I live stream every day, but I do it on YouTube. And the only reason I do it on YouTube instead of Twitch is because it allows me to cut one more step in creating a video, a very long formatted 2-hour video, instead of recording a 2-hour video, then downloading and re-uploading, and it just cuts it. It goes directly from what I recorded to that. And I know that Twitch has the same feature, but I just, cut it all together. But in retrospect, I mean, it depends on who you ask on that whole thing. I do think that MLG was a little bit too fast to act on an idea, and but it is. Will it? I mean, it's still there. It's still there. Like, what's going to happen when Activision decides to say, all right, let's hire 100 more people to make whatever they already built better, and a competitor to YouTube live streaming and Twitch live stream. Who knows? Who knows if it become? Was it too early? Sure, absolutely.
So look, we got to the good bit now. Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
we're here. Well, we've arrived. So look, I already talked about how you had to work pretty hard to get into the space. You wanted to be in for a while, and you were looking around at potential teams, and you were linked with all sorts of different teams. Heavily linked with the team that went on to become Astralis at one point. So tell me about the journey. I mean, you're looking over. Your boy Mike's already got in. Other college organizations are looking at it. Other big organizations are looking over. Yeah. Tell me about your initial foray into Counter-Strike.
Well, I don't know. I never really thought about expanding, or like it was an idea, but it wasn't a heavily thought of idea to expand into other esports because we're doing so well in Call of Duty that like you don't see like say the Bulls trying to go get a baseball team, right? So I was a little bit stuck in that mentality of like doing that. But the second that it presented itself, I'm like, all right, well, let's give it a thought. And when Mike, Hastra, who one is almost like a best friend to me in the Call of Duty community, but also happens to be like my nemesis, right? Because we've been competing with each other since 2010 almost, or earlier than that, right? So we've always known each other. We started a company together called Eon Interactive, which was supposed to be an agency. Fell through the cracks. Something, it didn't pan out, but I've known him for a long time. So when he did that, our fans were like, "Oh shit, Mike's getting ahead. Mike's getting ahead." So I'm like, "All right, fine. Let's do that." So Mike has always been very, very smart and clever, and has always been like a little bit ahead of the game in a lot of instances. I'll always have the YouTube ahead of the game on him, but on other aspects, he's always been like really forward thinking. And to me, that's awesome because again, we come from Call of Duty, two Call of Duty players. Yes, he was better for anybody who's gonna ask. But yeah, the fact that it grew to what it is, or the fact that he was able to do what it did, like only broadened my horizons, right? There's nothing better to anyone as a human, as an organization, or as an idea than to have an opposing idea or an opposing team that challenges you, that pushes you to be something else. If I would have never gave FaZe a shout out when they were coming up as YouTubers, they would have never grown to be what they were, which in turn would have never made me be more passionate about YouTube as I was. So, and same thing with Mike and Envy, right? If he would have never expanded into such a big esport, I don't think that I would have looked at it so quickly and say, all right, we got to do this. We got to move.
So, I mean, can you talk to much about the teams that you looked at or teams you had talks with? Because, a lot of people, I remember it was reported, and obviously, I kind of knew it wasn't true, but I remember people were saying, no, it's going to be Astralis. The Danes are joining OpTic. It's a done deal. Mm-hmm. How close actually was it?
Not close at all. I think that we were in the running for it. And what's his name? Biskov? The team manager. Freddie. Freddie. He hit me up on Skype and told me what I'm sure he told other organizations, said, put your best offer. And I think that it was genius for him to do that. He said, put your best offer on the table, and that's what it is. This isn't a negotiation. Give me your best offer. We're going to go with the best one. And somebody out there put a better one in there. So, if mine would have been the best offer, then they would have came with me, and that would have been it, right? That we would have grown from there.
How did you feel about that approach? Because, I know you're a guy who likes to, sit down, talk things through. Was it weird just having a guy say, just write the fucking figure on a piece of paper and slide it across the table?
No, it was cool, man. It was cool. I didn't know what to expect, right? I'm stepping into not only a different esport, but a different evolution of my business. So I was welcoming with anything and everything that happened. So when he said that, we put the offer, and it just didn't happen to be. And I was like, oh man, I wish you would have given me a second shot. He's like, I told you, put your best offer on the table. You know what? I believe in things happen for a reason, as bad as they are, as good as they are. Obviously, I am where I am because, I decided, something happened in my previous, employment that led me to where I am. So. I don't know. I'm very happy with the team that I have now. Right, it's evolving very, very well. I'm passionate about the NA scene, and our sponsors love, people that, speak English fluently.
So you end up with an American team, a North American team, which was that a region?
Should I wait? I'm gonna drop a bomb. I don't think anybody knows, but I figured that since I'm a big fan of the show, hey, let me finish what I was gonna say, Lewis. Damn it!
Do it then.
All right. Anyway, I was also talking to what was the name? What was the name of G2 before G2 became G2?
Was it Kingwin?
Yeah. What was? But there was another name to that.
G2 Kingwin. What were they called before Kingwin?
It was Kingwin something, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. No, they I think they were Kingwin, G2 Kingwin, and G2 Esports. Hang on, let me.
No.
I should know this.
Shox's team before at the beginning of the year.
Okay, let me see. Sam, you should be pressing these buttons, brother.
Sam,
Gamers 2. Was that it?
Yeah, no. Gamers 2 is listen, Sam. If you're not gonna be laughing on the podcast, you should be clicking those buttons, please. God,
holy shit! Why don't I know? No, because they're the phase now. So, yeah, it was Kingwin, I'm sure.
No, Titan. Thank you, Titan.
Oh, Titan.
Yeah, right, so I was having conversations with the team owner of Titan, but he wanted a merger, and we just couldn't come to an agreement.
Right. So way back, I see. Not right. Yeah. The French guys. Now I'm with you.
Right.
I'm thinking of the multinational lineup.
No. Right before they I was told that their contracts were 2-year contracts, right? So I needed to get into the space because of E-League, and I decided to go with Conquest, right? My North American team. But like a week later, after I made that decision, like the news came out that they were free agents and all that shit. But so I almost if I wouldn't have been told like that that they were in 2-year contracts, I would have waited it out to see what would happen. And I have a history of trying to follow the rules as much as I can. So I didn't reach out to any of the players. But had I would have known that their contracts were about to expire and they were going to be up for grabs, and that would have been my team. I would have put a decent offer in front of them, and I would have ended up with them instead of the Conquest team. But once we got Conquest, I got to meet Shazam, and I was like completely and utter like happiness because this dude was funny, right? Like maybe not on purpose, but like some of his laugh is definitely like mad contagious.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can definitely like put this guy in a YouTube video, and that shit's gonna be gold, and that's gonna attract our current fan base, and it's gonna get them interested in Counter-Strike, and it's gonna get them interested in following like that. And it's a lot easier in Counter-Strike. Like if I get a League of Legends team or a Dota 2 team, and I'm not saying that I am or that I'm not, and definitely not in the immediate future. It's a lot easier for our audience that plays Call of Duty to be like, holy shit, this is S&D, right? I've heard of an AK. I've heard of a sniper rifle. I know what positions are played. And obviously Counter-Strike being the mother of all, F-person shooters. Some people say those other games, but, Counter-Strike is what we've always followed. So even Pro Mod, right? Pro Mod like was amazing to us, not only because of the quality of the videos, but because of the style. That was all S&D. S&D's been my favorite game since Call of Duty 2.
Just rewinding back to the Titan thing, right? Like
I'll
tell you
go on a tangent, bro. Okay.
No, fuck that. That's same. That org was a fucking mess. I mean, serious. This is how you know it's a mess. They came out and blamed the whole, Kaylee cheating scandal and not being able to get sponsorships. Absolute lies, like just horseshit. They basically, they were looking for several mergers, actually. I mean, you're on the money. Definitely they were looking for a merger because they were trying to think. There was another organization they talked to. I can't remember now. It was so long ago. But they talked to another organization. They were like looking for a merger. They were trying to get a League of Legends team. It might have been Elements or Alliance or something, I want to say, that I think they were looking to try and pick up. But with it, they wanted to merge. And, and it was just such a fucking mess. And then, like, for them to come out and basically say, the cheating thing sank us. It didn't, man. That guy who was running that org was fucking clueless. Absolutely clueless. He didn't know what to do, how to monetize his org. And it's crazy because they were, like, a really good fucking team. But I was like you. I had no idea that they were just going to go under like that, none at all.
Yeah, no, I didn't know. I didn't know, but like I said, everything happens for a reason, and it's because of that happening, that I am now with like a team that, one, I can relate to, right, on many different levels, and two, that I'm, you know, that I care about, right? Like I know Mixwell's backstory, I know Rush's backstory, like even like letting go of Daps was like, it sucked, and that's the only thing that I regret in my career is managing my company the way that I manage it, right? I put too much into getting to know like my players when I shouldn't, right? My job should be like, all right, these are players. You got you got to make them do this, and then you do that in return. But I see them almost every day, right? The second all the visa shit gets out of the way, like Stan and Naf, and I'm telling you right now, Naf is gonna talk one day. Okay. Now,
I eagerly await it, right?
Yeah.
But you know, so how do you feel then? Because you're like, hey, the reason I felt good about the Conquest guys was Shazam.
Yeah.
And obviously not in the fucking team. It was quite short-lived. And you know, I interviewed Daps and obviously talked to the OpTic guys quite a lot. And they were like, Shazam was actually a big cause of a lot of the problems we had in the team. So how does that make you feel?
You know, I have an unwritten rule with my players that players make the team decisions as far as who they want to play with, because what the fuck do I know? I'm not in there with them. You know, I'm not coaching them, and I don't have an ear to whatever, you know, I don't know, right? But, you know, it kind of sucked because, you know, as soon as he came to the house, like everybody got along with him. Like everybody immediately got along with Shazam, and I still talk to Shazam. I tweet at him like constantly. So, and everybody at the house, like at the OpTic house, at the Call of Duty Scuff house, everybody got along with him. So when the news came that they were gonna have to go because of internal issues, everybody's like, "Oh man, that sucks." You know, everybody was sad about it. But you know, again, just because you're not on OpTic doesn't mean you can't be friends, right? But yeah, it sucked a little bit, man, because you know I really got along with him, just like I really got along with Daps. I don't know. It's but again, you know, if internally shit's not going on, like I can deal with not winning like all the time, because I know, you know, it's a game, right? You don't always win. You know, having identified what the problem is and everybody saying it at the same time that it's this person, then a change needs to be made. You know, losing is one thing, but losing and stressing yourself over it because you know what the cause is and it's toxic, then you know there's no getting around it.
But you obviously again, I did that interview with Daps, and we talked at the time about that famous, you know, sleeping in incident and missing the qualifier. No, yeah, right. No, I said that you'd been great because you've been fucking hands off, you know. You've been so hands off with the team. You were letting them find their own identity. You know, you hadn't put any pressure on them and been like, you know, hey, you represent OpTic now. We got fucking millions of fans. You know, you got to book your fucking ideas up, and if you don't win the first tournament you enter, you're all getting fucked. You know, you didn't do that. But then when you heard about that, like we slept through a fucking qualifier. Like, what the fuck is going through your mind, dude?
I got really upset. You know, I got really, really upset. I know that the salary I give them is very, very competitive, especially by NA standards. I know that, you know, in the process of getting the house that I was going to get them was going to be a very nice house. And for me, the house isn't for them to train in, right? Like yeah, play from there. But team houses, in my opinion, have always been about the content that comes out of there, as opposed to the training. You can train from where the fuck you want, as long as you're comfortable and you compete. But like I knew that I was doing a lot for them, and I told them in a very, very harsh conversation that I had with them that, you know, I've done right by them. You know, when they told me that they needed something, I would do it, right? I've been very, very open to their suggestions. I always argue with them because it's like I'm sparring with them, you know, through ideas. But that was like a little bit of a last straw for me. So I had to let the mean guy come out a little bit while still being.
Describe that to me, dude, because I haven't seen the mean guy yet. So
yeah, no, it's I don't know. Just picture your dad like talking shit to you. Okay, that's exactly what it was. But it wasn't your dad. It was like your uncle.
Yeah, I was gonna say it would happen
to though.
Yeah. When my dad's doing it, you know, there's bars in a way, right?
Yeah. When my dad's doing it, it's just no words, just belts, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He just grounded me like last week, so I'm sorry. But I you know what? I was really upset with them. I specifically because I was lied to. And to Shazam's like he even like gave me a lie and said that that's not what happened. They just missed it, or that the apps had like a family issue or something. So I literally told him, don't fucking lie to me again. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like that's one thing that I'm not ever gonna take. I don't. I mean, I don't need this sort of shit. Lose, fine, but don't miss your thing and don't give me excuses because you're getting paid to do it. You're not doing me a favor, right? And I'm not doing you a favor. This is what it is. And sure, it gets blurred because of the way that I act with you and interact with you. But at the end of the day, like we're both here to do a job, and you're not gonna make me look like an idiot. And I told him, I'm like, fucking Thorin and Richard Lewis are out there. Like I watch these guys. They're talking shit about me, about how I'm maybe too lenient with you guys. Yeah, right. I'm like, don't make me be the opposite. Is what I was trying to tell them, right? Because I can be.
I'm sure you can. So then, you know, how are you feeling about the overall performance of the team? Because I was going to ask, you know, when you picked up an NA team, was that the region you'd originally had designs on? Because everyone knows NACS is a fucking shit show at the best of times. Anyone could beat anyone. Rosters are fucking unstable. And you know, honestly, there wasn't really back then, you know, it's changed a little bit recently, but there wasn't really a lot of opportunity in terms of, you know, fan base and blah, blah, blah. I guess guys didn't need to worry about that because you were bringing your own. But yeah, like, was it kind of the first pick to have an NA team?
I had two choices. I had sponsorship in mind. I had two choices. I can either go with a really good performing team, you know, from Europe, or I can get some guys that I can teach how to do good on camera that will then translate to, you know, sponsorship money. When the first one went about, because I remember I'm like, all right, so since I'm just gonna do this, right, I'm gonna follow the traditional norm that's happening right now, where people are just going in there and buying stuff, right? And you know what's crazy is that I remember talking to Banks from FaZe, and we're talking. He's like, yo, are you going into Counter-Strike? I'm like, yeah, and then he's like, yeah, us too. And originally the plan was like to build from within, or to build within North America. And then I said, I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe in this situation, I think I'm just gonna go out and buy a team, already established team, and do that. You know, it ended up being the reverse, where they ended up going to go, you know, G2, and then we ended up, you know, building from within and with an already established North American team. So, so yeah, that's what I was. The performance again for me wasn't that big of a deal. Again, so the choice was 50-50 coin flip.
So, you know, you've recently shook things up in the team. The acquisition of Tarik, I think, is a fucking big deal, dude. You know, I know he had a buyout attached to him. I said Tarik's been really unlucky because, you know, he's played on teams where, you know, he's had bad form when everyone else is peaking. Then just when it looks like it's going to be good, you know, other people leave that team. You know, then he said, oh, I'm going to go and stream. And then all the fucking sponsorships dried up because of all the skins gambling sites going down. Like, I felt super sorry for this guy. And he's a cool dude. You know, he's a real nice guy. But you know, when you picked him up, were there any apprehensions? Because, you know, he's a player that's had star billing, but honestly hasn't always put in star performances. And I knew there was a buyout attached to him.
Yep.
So were you worried about signing another check?
yeah, of course. Yes and no, right? We just gotten skin money, so it's like the first time that happened. So I didn't know what to buy. It's either a player or something else.
So you bought Tarik.
That's what I just bought. No, you know what? I was a little bit nervous about, you know, the check. CLG was they were all very, very cool about the situation, and they were very easy to work with. So that, you know, props to them for being that type of org. And to be honest, like when Daps brought it up, I was like, all right, let me do some research. And I saw it, and I was like, man, this kid's good on, you know, very good on camera. Like, this is easy for me to work with, because again, my whole thing is like, if I can help them, you know, create a stable living, not reliant on championships, they're going to perform better, right? Because that stress is out of the way, right? That's one stress that they don't have. Like, they're not going to be thinking the entire Sunday, like, fuck, I got to win this because this covers 2 months of my rent, or this covers 2 months of my car payment. Now they're like, well, my car payment's paid off because my YouTube channel is amazing. My streaming thing is going great. Now I just got to play for competition's sake. So So when I saw that, I'm like, cool. And then I just met him this past competition in New York, and the dude, man, such a cool dude. Lost his voice early on, which is rookie move. And his brother and family were really cool. So I'm very, very, very happy with the Tarik situation.
And it's worked out because actually you guys have started getting good results. I think domestically, obviously, it was ESL New York where things weren't so great, but online at least, you guys have had some notable results, and it looks like it's a move that definitely worked out, which is crazy because I was like, oh, poor Hector, man. It's like whole DAP situation with him being in and out of the team and Tarik kind of now pulling the strings. This could be a fucking runaway train right now. And not in the good way. Not like a choo-choo. Oh, like this. Yeah. Like just crashing into your fucking house runaway train.
Yeah, it was. And that's a conversation I had with them when they're like, all right, we're gonna part ways with Stan and blah blah. And then like 3 days later, it's like, well, it wasn't Stan, it was Daps. And the whole time I'm like, you little kids are putting me in a position that I don't want to be in. You're making it seem as though Hector is just fucking letting him, doesn't care. The one thing that I care about is when people say that I don't care about specific like group of whether it's Halo and just recently with Halo because we hadn't been winning and people that whatever. And then with this, Hector doesn't care about his Counter-Strike team. Why would he? He's got YouTube and Call of Duty and that's not the case, right? And I'm like, you guys are fucking making people say shit that isn't true, and I don't like to defend myself. If I'm in the right and I know I'm right, I'm not gonna say shit about it. I will never defend myself if I know that I'm in the right or if I know something's not true. I'm not gonna add on to the fuel ever. So I didn't make any comments about me not caring. So I'm like, all right, make whatever it is. We'll worry about the rest later. It'll die out in a week. So yeah, but yeah, I was upset with them because they said it was one thing and then the other. We made the announcement. We're like, just let's hope for the best. And we're here and they have a very, very good performance. I think that, and they're like me, right? Anything that happens online, you got to almost discard because, yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it lands all that matters to me. It always has, even with Call of Duty. So,
but I got the results in front of me here, brother. Let's talk about some of these wins. So, online after the acquisition of Tarik, you've got, wins against Immortals, wins against Echo Fox, wins against Selfless, wins against Winter Fox. I don't know if that's much to shout about, but it's there. Wins over Cloud9, who many people feel, had a shout at being the best team in North America. I think they were the highest North American team in the world rankings right now. You've got then obviously in New York, you had a win over Astralis. You take 14 rounds off Virtus Pro. You wrecked CLG. Yeah, this is a pretty good fucking resume of late, I think.
Yeah, but look, let's be honest here, man. Unless we're on Thorin's top 10, what the fuck does it matter, So that's what we're shooting.
I'm sure
for.
if Thorin would tell you the same thing, right?
Yeah, no, and again, like I always tell every single time I have a chance to talk about it, like I don't care what he says about Call of Duty or Call of Duty Oris or North America. Like none of our fans are gonna hate him. We like that personality. So no matter how much shit he talks, too bad, bro. We're not gonna hate you.
And I missed out a win over G2. So how are you feeling about the team right now? Like, do you guys feel you can go on, conquer that North American scene, be the best in North America with this particular lineup?
That's what the players tell me. So yeah, and the performances show it. We had very, very good showing against G2, a very good showing against Astralis, and even against Virtus, right? Yeah. We choked. I think we could have won. We could have been in the finals. Is what I'm trying to say. But I don't know. It's until they move into the house and the real part of the plan begins. Like this is all just going through the motions, man. Going through the waves. Long term is what I'm here for. So what happens now is not.
And where we are now. And Tarik went off as well, which is a good thing because the player you paid the money for is actually delivering those star performances and doing things I've not seen him do in teams for a long time. Picking up the AWP, like running with it. You can see he's making mid-round calls when and shit like this. Like this guy he's fucking serious. I think he realizes if I fuck this up, this could be the end of my career. This could be back to streaming with no t-shirt on. You know?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I don't know what his motivation is. I'm anxious to find out once he moves into the house. I really want to work with him along with the other guys. I think that the chemistry there is going to be good for content, and then we can worry about the and I don't want people to think that all I care about is content and YouTube, and it's a big part of our business, and esports is as well. So I think that growing them parallel is the only way to do things. So nothing is gonna, no matter how many people judge me for it, it's gonna continue to be that because I say so. God damn it.
Last meaty question before we wrap up, and I'll let you go about the rest of your day. Team houses. I know OpTic have an incredible fucking team house, dude. I've seen the walk around guide. I watch that show that you do on occasion. I don't watch it religiously. I won't lie.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
No, okay, I do. But it's a great house, but I'm not a fan of team houses.
Yeah.
As a rule, I've seen some terrible ones, especially in North America, in terms of they're almost like sweatshops for gaming content, for practice. Tell me about your gaming house at OpTic, and tell me about your opinions of gaming houses in general, because I honestly believe as more money comes into the scene, I think we'll look back on the time period of gaming houses as like a quaint money-saving measure, honestly.
Not in my case. It's definitely not cheap.
Maybe not in your case. No.
Yeah, the houses are an option for you. Okay, everybody knows that when you join OpTic, there's an opportunity there that doesn't come along very often, right? An opportunity to grow your brand to such heights that when you retire, you still have a steady audience to continue to build upon that, to not have to go work at the 9 to 5. So the house is always an option, right? I'm not gonna beg you to please come in, move in, so you can better your career, right? It's an option. You can move in if you want to. You don't have to if you don't have to. My opinion of team houses is, again, it's an opportunity for up and comers to latch on, in a sense, or to work with already established content creators that they can build their audience upon. So that's my opinion. Training, building team chemistry, those are basics that should come without having a house.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, my teammates in Origin of OpTic, they're across the United States, and we have amazing chemistry. We don't need to move into our new house.
I mean, because EnVyUs, and one of the things that I admire Mike for is, I think he's acknowledged that the team house thing is a little bit fucking played out, and he wants to have a training facility and have players live independently in their own apartments, have their own space, and then they come together in a training facility. I've seen that kind of done a little bit with League of Legends. As well, some European League of Legends orgs have a kind of similar thing where they have like a working space, a working office, and they have apartments. But I think that has to be the way we go, because you wouldn't have a professional sports team, however cool the house is, you wouldn't have them all living together in the same space and having no separation between work, relaxation. Everyone's in each other's face all the time. And imagine having a situation where it's like you're pissed off at a guy in game because he's irritating you because you're still thinking about he didn't do the washing up or something.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Again, but you're talking training, right? I'm talking content. And it has happened where people have gotten like into these crazy spats, right? And it's a lot easier to escalate when you're in front of somebody instead of taking a break from them. So I get that. And a couple of years ago, like I think it was 2014, where we went to Santa Monica for something where we were boot camping there for a week. I think that at that point I realized that it is a good idea to maybe have a workspace. And we actually considered getting offices instead of the house that we have now. But I think it's still too early. I think that happens when esports is in a little bit more of a stable, position to where you can offer the semi outrageous salaries for certain people to be there, where you don't have to be so heavily reliant on working 24/7 for your duties. Because you have to give an example, like Seth or Scumpy, right? He's the biggest Call of Duty esports player out there. He gets up, goes to the gym, gets home, and then from like noon to 8, he's like practicing on stream, right? Practicing every day. And then after that, he plays for like 3 hours to get a YouTube video, and then he edits a video for another hour, and then he goes to bed, right? So that's like an insane amount of hours that people are working to work on their own brand, and it's working phenomenally, right? The dude's got 2 million, subscribers on YouTube. He's got 1.5, I think, followers on Twitter. So it works, right? The hard work does pay off, but at some point or another, like you need that break, and being able to go work at an office and then go home and just not have to think about that is super healthy for the mind. So I see it. I can argue both sides of it.
Right. Well, no right that's very much you in a nutshell, Hector. The diplomat, the pragmatist, both sides of the argument. Yeah. You're nowhere near as forceful as I thought you were going to be when I first met you. So it's good, and I do wish you every success with OpTic. I think you're a cool guy. I think it's a great brand. So far, I think you've done everything right. Obviously, I'll be there the first time you fuck up. To call you out, because that's what I do.
I'll ignore you.
Yeah, obviously, right? Because that's what you do.
That's exactly what I do.
So let's talk about what's next up for you and next up for OpTic, just as we wrap this up. So what plans do you have? Any reveals? Anything cool going on that you think whoever's watching this interview might need to know about?
No, I mean the only thing that's that's constantly working in the background is as you know, we wrote a book. We didn't actually write the book, right? We just like talked for hours on end, and some guy in the background just wrote it. But the movie rights got bought out for that, and it's not. It's gonna be like it's gonna be scripted. It's not gonna be like an actual like documentary. Because I think that we do that just fine on our show Vision, which is like the weekly recap of like the behind the scenes that happens. But yeah, I mean that's always in the. I mean, there's so many opportunities when you have like a good set of people that are one, having fun with what they're doing, but two, are really really good at their respective esports. So I don't know. There's always something back there that's working. Some machine back here. It's like this big. It's just like always working.
Well, look, if you ever need another ghostwriter or anything, hit me up. You can just cut me a blank check. I'll follow you guys around. I'll write you a roller coaster of a story.
I'll laugh on videos for $3,000 a month. I'll take
there you go. Yeah. Sam's laugh is also
cheap.
available for sale.
All right, cool.
You can call it the OpTic laugh if you want. We'll allow that. But no, man, like seriously, I think it's really cool everything you're doing. I got a lot of love for the guys on your team in CS. Obviously,
only in CS.
Yeah, well, I don't really know.
You have fans, man. You have fans that you.
No. I mean, look, as I said, I think you guys are a fucking great brand. I think it's great that you've managed to negotiate the tricky territory of esports, scandal and smear and sleaze, without ever really getting caught up in it. And that obviously takes good guidance and good leadership, like we talked about right back at the start of this interview. So continue to do that, because obviously that's what we need in esports. And thanks very much for giving me your time. I know it's valuable. I know you're a big deal. And thanks for your continued support of our content. Obviously, it does mean a lot to me personally, because we've had a drink, and we need to do it again sometime soon. Hopefully, it doesn't get as messy as it did out in Ohio.
No. But listen, hopefully it does. What do you mean?
I'm getting old, dude. I'm starting to feel it. I need to calm down.
But listen, you got to promise me two things. All right.
Okay, cool.
I agree. And I'm going to say it verbally because I know I already told you behind the scenes, but I'm telling you again in public as part of the video. So it's tallied as a thing. You need to come on the OpTic podcast. I'm going to fly you out. I'm going to put you up. Yeah. It takes 1 hour, hour and a half. Right. Because again, everybody at the house is a big fan of you. So we're going to bring you out. To do that, you have to do it though. You have to tell me when you're free.
I will do it. As soon as E-League's got a gap, I'm yours.
All right, and two. Mm-hmm. All right, two. You have to do another video where you read the comments.
Oh, you like
that? Bro, I was dying the entire time. I was literally crying. I don't listen to music in my car. I listen to podcasts, and you're definitely like on heavy rotation on this. So please do that. It gave me a tremendous laugh.
You have my word that me and Sam will pick through the most stupid comments again, and we'll do a speak your brains. We'll even give you a dedication.
Awesome.
At the start of the video.
I'm gonna go type something fucking super outrageous, and then
get some of the OpTic guys to come over and troll me. That should be good, right?
You'll fall for it, like you guys fell for it when we stepped into the space.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like one big troll, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, dude, look, man, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Thanks to everybody for watching. We'll be back with another Richard Lewis show soon. Obviously, we're putting out videos daily right now. Hopefully, that's going to continue while we've still got E-League up and running. But obviously, if the E-League commitments do come first, just watch all the old stuff. Yeah, excuses. I'm a part-timer. But the main thing is continue to support the show, continue to support Hector. He needs no introduction. You'll find him on Twitter, you'll find him on YouTube, and continue to support OpTic in all their endeavors. Until the next episode, take care.